History Book of Dinosaurs.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Civil War documentary. We are going over the major battles and all the stuff that has happened over the span of just 4 years, one of the famous being the Battle of Gettysburg, and also the first use of what would now be called battleships, possibly. I don't really know. But anyways, onwards. The beginning of the war started due to the fact the South states thought Abraham Lincoln would take away their slaves, and 11 of the 14 states that used slaves dipped. The other will remain as border states. As of now, they have all changed their sides and are no longer using slaves. This included the state of Texas, which was a country that lasted from 1836 to 1845, which joined the Union, and in 1861 they seceded again. In the 1800s, possibly late 1700s, Abraham Lincoln was born into a small family in Kentucky and moved to a few other states before deciding to proceed into the law. But anyways, around the 1860s, early 1860s, like 1860 to 1861, Abraham Lincoln ran for president, with him winning by a landslide, with also the bleeding Kansas situation going on, and the South thinking that Abraham Lincoln, along with the law, would eventually remove the slaves, like maybe in 1863 or 4, but Abraham Lincoln would remove it eventually. However, they didn't notice, so of course they seceded. 11 of the 14 states had seceded from the Union, including Texas, Tennessee, Florida, Alabama, Louisiana, Georgia, North Carolina, South Carolina, and basically the rest of them. However, free states, including the newly West Virginia, because they wanted to stay with the Union, split off and became one of the 3 bordering states. That's a lot to take in, but trust me, it gets more confusing from here. 1861, when they seceded, because guess what? A war started, and guess what? They have officially decided to declare war on the North United States of America, the Confederate States of America in the South, and the normal United States in the North. The South started taking a few W's here and there. However, America started beating the living out of them after a battle. Don't know which one, but and then started making advancements until 1865, where they just finally couldn't take it anymore, and they finally had to surrender. The end of the Civil War had resulted in a lot of death, and also civilians actually watched the first few battles, which was, one, dangerous since they could have getting killed, which was the main issue. Anyways, on to more important matters. Later that same year in 1865, after the war had ended, someone had shot Abraham Lincoln in the back of the head, which resulted in his death hours later. A few hours later, it was a nice late night, and Abraham Lincoln was watching a show and was just having a jolly good old time. However, someone appeared from his back with a gun, aimed at the head, and pulled the trigger, resulting in him being unconscious for several hours until he was pronounced dead. They tried to help him, but they couldn't really fix the situation. This was a lot similar to another president's death, but we don't have to go over that anyway. Anyways, on to the important thing. The Confederate States of America wanted Britain's help, however, they didn't like it. After they lost the battle, Britain just didn't give the aid they wanted, so America beat the north part of the United States, just started beating the living out of them, taking territories, separating them, and Texas has seceded from America for the first time, but it's their second time not being a state. They're still considered the only country to have left the Union. Anyways, goodbye.